It's Comparable NSS, and you're welcome to Baphomet's Lounge. Today I've got a very special guest, very good friend of mine, one of my colleagues from work, which is why we are dressed in our work gear. My good friend Trevor Schumacher, who is one of under 200 people in the world to have completed the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, a 740-mile jaunt, mostly on canoe, though there's a lot of parts where you have to portage and walk. And, you know, we were fascinated. We were all supporting him. He told our bosses, he says, I'm going to take 2 months off. I want to do this thing. I need to find myself, what have you. And that's the way we roll. And we had a website. We all, were watching him. We wished him well. We went out drinking before you left, the whole 9 yards. And it's been a wonderful experience. And he came back, and he came back alive. And he came back in 40 days, about 40 and a half days, which was amazing. So, Trevor, why don't you tell me what inspired you to actually want to do this?
I've always been kind of an explorer and adventurer. I've always loved the outdoors. And as a kid, I aspired to do the Appalachian Trail until I realized I don't like hiking that much. And then I ended up doing a bear hunting trip up in the Adirondacks and came across the Fulton chain of lakes, which is like the first lake, second lake, and it runs through 8th Lake. So I was Googling, trying to see if I could, figure out a way to canoe from First Lake to the end of 8th Lake. And it turns out that that's the beginning of a very famous canoe race, probably one of the more famous canoe races in the area. The Adirondack 90 miler, the Adirondack Canoe Classic is what it's called.
Oh.
So I'm reading about that, trying to see what I've got to do to try to enter this race. More people enter than what they accept, so it's kind of an honor to be even accepted in the race. And then I see in a forum somebody be like, hey, and if you want to keep going, you could do the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. And then that was kind of the beginning of the rabbit hole that I jumped down, which was learning of the 740-mile trip. And
yeah.
It planted the seed landed in soil, and over the years, it was just something that I ended up working toward.
And what type of preparation was involved in this, besides, getting equipment and then probably training and the whole 9 yards? Why don't you talk us through that?
Yeah, a lot of research. Just have to research everything. And a lot of food prep, a lot of pretty much anything that I brought with me needed to be researched top to bottom. Like, I didn't bring a t-shirt if I didn't know that it was the best t-shirt I could bring with me. I didn't have a lick of cotton with me. Everything was wool. Because when you're around that much water, you can't get wet and have it drain the heat from your body. So everything was either wool or polyester, nylon, but cotton was the devil. So
wow, and I mean, you had to pack light, right?
Oh, super light. Yep. And I, looking back, I could probably shave 10 pounds off of what I brought with me. But if I didn't need it, I didn't bring it, was the mindset that you had to go into it. So that's another thing. It's a lot like through hiking the Appalachian Trail. You have to kind of ultralight it.
But you had like wild swings of temperatures where you had like
I did
freezing and then huge 90 degree weather and stuff like that.
Yep. Within a week or like 10 days, I probably went from having a night be 15 degrees overnight that you're just shivering. There's no way to stay warm when you're packed so light and you're not packing for 15-degree temperatures, and then it's 95 degrees during the day, and you're dragging 100 pounds of gear, up a hill with you, and it's just, like you're saying, you can only be so prepared, and I was not prepared for either extreme. But to kind of willingly go on the Bataan Death March I still find fascinating. I mean, were you able to find yourself? Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve in this? I wish I did, but it was such a grind just trying to make miles every day, and you're just so focused on what your immediate need is, and you're also focused on making sure that you're prepared for the night, for the next morning, for the next day, and the next week, and you're always trying to prepare. So I honestly didn't have time to really reflect.
So there was no even at nighttime Zen moments, or you didn't bring a book to read or anything like that. It was just basically survival instincts.
Yep. Like midday, I still wouldn't know where I was going to camp for the night. So, about 3-4 o'clock, it's like, all right, I've done this many miles. Every body of water is different. Am I going to be able to move it, 1.5 miles an hour, or am I going to be doing 6 miles an hour? Well, over the course of a 10, 12-hour day, that changes where you're going to be sleeping, so where you're going to be camping.
Yeah, we were watching you. I mean, you had your own website, whereistrevor.com, which is still up, I believe. So
Yep,
they can,
that's still
if you get a chance, go check out his trip. You can see where he camped at night and stuff. And it was split up by days or, segments and stuff like that. And at first we were worried because you were doing like 9, 8, 10 miles a day, averaging 9 miles a day. Well, doing some quick math, that's almost 75 days.
Yeah.
And you were going to be gone for like 2 months. You'd taken off, so 60
Yep.
days, a little over 60 days. You wound up doing it in 40, wonderfully. But it was a slow grind at first. How did you get? Was it the environment or the topography that changed to give you the momentum and to get these longer mileages or make it in 40 days? How did that work to your advantage or not?
So there's a lot of variables. I would say at first the cold was a major factor. I was waking up in the morning and I was almost keeping a fire going all night because it was so cold in the middle of the night. I'd have to go stand by the fire and thaw out. And in the morning I'd be trying to pack up and leave and I'd have to go by the fire and warm up. And similarly, I had a lot of headwind in the beginning and I had a bunch of fishing equipment with me. So I'd get tired of paddling and I'd start fishing, and a half hour later I might put the pole back down and start paddling again.
Oh.
So there were a lot of factors that really contributed to my slow start, if you will. And I can do math. I'm running numbers in my head too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be out here. Like, it's gonna be fall by the time I'm gonna waste my entire summer on this canoe. Not that it'd be a waste, but I didn't plan on it taking 60 to 75 days.
Right.
So,
now you met up with other people. You originally were going to go with a friend that wasn't able to make it in the end, and then you went by yourself. But you met up with some other people, and you met up with there's a young lady that started 4 days after you and beat you by a day, and there was a 65-year-old guy that blew right by you.
Oh, definitely.
know.
Yep. So while I was doing the trail, I think there was 6 others that I was aware of. So when you begin the trail, there's a kiosk that you literally just sign a piece of paper, your name, where you're from, where you plan on going. So you can look at this and be like, all right, who else has signed it? Who's starting in Old Forge, New York and trying to end in Fort Kent, Maine? So you can kind of see who's ahead of you and when they started in that. So when I started, there was only one guy ahead of me. His name was Bobby, and he stayed ahead of me the entire time. So then after I started, there was a number of people who started the trail. They obviously knew I was doing the trail, that Bobby was doing the trail as well, and they ended up catching me, and a couple of them passing me as well.
Wow. So what was your diet like to just, food was really, it was fuel, right? That's all it was.
Yes. Yep, just calories. That's the big thing. But it's also a compromise of weight, and has to be good enough to eat, So I did a lot of prep work, thanks to Matt, another colleague of ours, let me borrow his dehydrator for weeks, I want to say. So I bought a bunch of fruits, a bunch of vegetables, a bunch of canned chicken, I made a bunch of jerky, and just started processing it all, cut it up into little pieces, dehydrate it, and then I'd put it in bags. And then I had a mail drop too, where I had somebody mail, I think it was turned out to be 17 or 18 pounds worth of food to the last possible resupply of the trail.
Wow.
And,
so you weren't, I was going to say, there were times when you were in the deepest, darkest of the woods, but there were other times where you came out to life, right?
Definitely. So, where the trail begins too, it's kind of in a little bit of a touristy town, being Old Forge, New York. It's, it's a popular destination. So when I'm starting, you're going through the lake and it's nothing but private land, boat houses, docks, things like that. And then pretty quickly, once you start going through the Adirondacks, it gets a bit more remote. But, as you're leaving New York and you're going into Lake Champlain, you're going through Plattsburgh, which is the biggest township along the trail. And like you're saying, you do kind of hop through other towns and that. A lot of towns are built on water. That's just the way things were. And
so when you went to those towns, would you grab something to eat there?
Oh, it was such a treat. It was.
I can imagine.
It was a carrot on a stick. I want to say for days it'd be like, all right, when can I get the next Coca-Cola or the next chocolate milk, or
just craving something luxurious.
Push hard so we can go here and get a burger, or
And again, it was still focusing on food that could help replenish certain things like chocolate milk.
Definitely. So with all the food prep, the one thing that isn't light and doesn't dehydrate is fats. So I found myself really craving fat, whether it was a burger or chocolate milk or candy bars, chips, things like that.
So junk food actually
Junk
was,
food.
was good for you in this case.
Definitely.
Because you would have all the healthy food. You needed that to fulfill the missing fat. And
Yeah, whatever I ate, I was gonna burn it up. It didn't matter. Like it was just a dumpster. Whatever, if it was calories, I would eat it, and it wasn't gonna be a problem. So much so that over the course of those 40 days of doing the trail, I lost 25 pounds, which I didn't think I had 25.
Yeah, I was about to say,
but
what, did your eyebrows shrink or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, I remember you came with a full beard and all that other stuff. You definitely looked like a mountain man. But what, you know, there was, like you say, it wasn't always canoeing. There was portaging involved as well.
Yep.
Were there ever any instances where it was like, I can't do this? This is, you know, whether it was, you know, like there are areas I know you'd mentioned before that maybe you weren't going down the river because it was like a rapids or something like that, so you'd have to portage by it or what have you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of discretion you got to use, and when you're up in the wilderness, you can't really take risks because there's nobody around to help you out for the most part. You know, mind you, I did come across people on the trail, and there was one gentleman in particular, his name was Tom, that I kind of, you know, we paddled together for quite some time. But there were definitely spots on the trail where, you know, one that really stands out to me was it was a Little Spencer Stream. And you're in remote Maine at this point. There aren't any roads around. You know, like around here, if there's a stream or a good fishing spot, there's a road that's going to lead up to it. Not up there. You know, they've got thousands and thousands of bodies of water and probably more bodies of water than people.
Gosh, well, it is Maine after all.
So, you know, here's this 6 mile stretch of river full of class 1 and 2 rapids, and I've got to go upstream. There's no trail on the side of the woods you can walk. You can't walk those woods. There's no roads you can get out on. So it's like you just end up tying a rope to your canoe, and you have all of your gear in your canoe, and you just walk upstream through these class 2 rapids, just fighting for every foot you get.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
there were times doing that where, you know, the current's so strong. As the river winds, the current flows to the outside of the water. So it's usually deepest on the outsides and it's most shallow on the inside. So you'd be walking the inside of the curve, and then you'd have to ferry yourself across the current to get to the other shallow side, so you could go around the next curve. There were times when I was trying to ferry my stuff across and my feet got swept out from under me. And I'm hanging onto my boat going down class 1 and 2 rapids, just trying to get to shore. So it's...
Were you going in this direction you needed to go, or were you going back?
I was going back.
Oh, so it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps... Oh,
Yeah.
and then fight your way back
Yeah.
to where you left off. Oh.
And it's just so disheartening and just demoralizing when...
Yeah! Unbelievable! So...
And you're doing the math in your head. It's like, all right, so I'm fighting for every foot. It's 6 miles, so... Great, what, 33,000 more of these feet I have to earn? You know what I mean? It's just... It beats you down.
I remember once again we were watching, and if you want to see, you know, his trip, at least it's not completed, but you can see all the lines. Whereistrevor.com. I'll be putting it on the screen for you guys to check out. You know, there was, you know, the last part was we were looking at. We thought you were close, and myself and Brian and Brad, you know, the managers of the department you worked for at our company. We always kept tabs on you, and I said, I think Trevor's at the final edge. And he said, yeah, I guess the ending was Fort Kent. And we were looking, and it was like, I'm like, oh, he's got to be. And again, I was like, wow, he's only got to get to here. And then like, when I looked up, you did it. You know, you must have been hauling. And then you still had like a day's worth. Your father had to come up and pick you up at the tippy top of Maine.
Yep.
And then it was like, what, 10-hour drive?
12, 13-hour drive?
Home,
yeah.
Wow.
So it was only a 3.5, 4-hour drive to get to Old Forge, you know, and then 12, 13 to get to Maine. So that 8-hour car ride is what I was paddling.
Wow. And what, now that you've done this, you know, all right, say you didn't find yourself, or say you didn't have these Zen times, you know, where you read a book and you were one with nature and stuff, because I'm sure bugs, you know, sleep, there's hot, cold bugs,
Yep.
you know, eating, chicken jerky, craving chocolate milk and portaging through. There was that mud gulch thing where, which is like, I saw, if you get a chance, like I say, go on to YouTube and check out Northern Forest Canoe Trail. And there's several videos on there. It's quite fascinating. I think there were days you had mentioned that you couldn't even do it if the weather or the wind was too bad. You were stuck.
There were times, especially with like Lake Champlain. It's a huge lake. It's the 6th largest. It's just behind the Great Lakes, and there were times when you got to paddle across it. Like, you look around and it's like, there's nobody out here on canoes. Well, there's a reason why, and you wait for the water to be calm and not 3 to 4 foot swells, before you can cross. And then there were other times when I wanted to take a break, but here's Big Moosehead Lake and it's a sheet of glass. It's like, we got to do it. Like, you seize the opportunity. You might be waiting a week, until it's safe to cross again. You just never know. So
you have windows of opportunity that you have to.
Certainly. And you're like looking at the forecast, like, all right, we got to squeeze some more miles out of today and tomorrow. So when the wind's low here, we can cross this big lake and, things like that. Like, if I'm just portaging down the road, I don't really care what the weather's doing. I can walk. If it's windy, I can walk. If it's raining, I can walk.
I gotcha.
So
what, I guess the first question is, first off, congratulations. Less than 200 people in the world, like about 150, right?
Yeah.
People in the world of, this thing that have done this. I mean, you really, that is an achievement. And I that's a great achievement right there in and of itself. What would you do it again? And then B, did you at least take something out of it outside of, I did this? Was there, what were some of the, at least takeaways?
I would say, to answer your first question, I don't know if I'd do it again. I wouldn't do it again solo. And if I did do it again solo, I would probably try to do like a downstream paddle of it. So I want to say there's probably 150, don't quote me on this number, miles that go upstream during the trail, which, it's like running on a treadmill. You're just paddling in water that's going the opposite direction. Come on, that's no fun, you know what I mean? So it's just a lot of work for not a lot of reward.
But you couldn't, when you said so you could have taken a different thing, or no, you're stuck doing that?
So there's a few different distinctions for through paddling the trail. One of which is, you start at the beginning and then you make it to the end. That simply. You don't take any rides or shuttles, as they call them. And you do, if the river's going, upstream and you got to go up it, you go up it. And if it's not safe, you can portage around.
Right.
If you get accommodations, great. You just have to come back to the spot in the trail where you left and then resume from there. So that was the route, kind of more of the purest route that I was trying to take.
Okay.
They do still give you, you'll still be recognized for completing the trail if you take a shuttle for like less than, I think it's like 10% of the trail. So say there's this, hellacious portage and you don't want to drag your stuff 20 miles. Great, call an outfitter. They'll be happy to come pick you and your boat up and take you to whatever point in the river you want to go.
Okay.
But I chose not to do that. I chose, nope, I'm going to...
You went for the double, you went to double platinum.
Yep. Like, nope, I'm going to walk this 15 miles today, or I'm going to, just drag my boat upstream when I can't paddle it, or what have you. Just going to work for every mile.
Okay. You challenged yourself.
I did, yeah. And to be honest, I'm glad that I did it that way, because part of me was looking for my breaking point in doing this. And I think it'd be hard to draw a line. Like, okay, well, I didn't want to do this portage, so I took a ride. Well, I'm not going to want to do the next one either, so am I going to call for a ride? Like, when it gets hard, am I just always going to call for a ride? Or
right, yeah.
Or did I do all this preparation so that...
I remember sitting in my comfortable office, and, coming from my nice lavatory and checking how you were doing and thinking like, you were shitting in the woods that day and, freezing or sweating. I mean, yeah, kudos to you. So I'm going to drink to you, brother, man. Nostrovia on that one. Congratulations. My good friend, Trevor Schumacher, who did the Northern Forest Canoe Trail in 40 and a half days. So check it out, whereistrevor.com. By the way, if you like what you hear or like what you see, please feel free to click the link, click the bell so you get notified. Please subscribe. So that way, please like, please leave comments. So that way the YouTube algorithms will grumble and algorithm all over the place, and they'll say, that dude is uber cool. And he'll start telling everyone, you got to check this guy out because he's cool. Plus, Baphomet's Lounge merchandise fulfilled by my good friends at Chautauqua Audio Works. I've got pint glasses, I've got coasters, I've got koozies, all on the link down below. Check it out. And until next week, my ass, I do these things. I'm not a nut like him that's going to be doing, I do these whenever, inspiration strikes me, though I try to be rather regular, and maybe if the algorithms tell me that I need to, I will. But until my next episode, Trevor, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're more interested, Google the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. Check it out. Mr. Schumacher is one of 150, around that number in the world that's done it. And wow, I salute him, and thank you so much for coming by. This is really cool. Thanks, Peace, everybody. Cheers.